Hello friends, we had a lovely birthday weekend. We visited Visalia and Tulare Lake, and we had really lovely hosts, Mary and Jim, and they live in Corcoran, which is ground zero for Tulare Lake. And I want Robert to tell you a little bit about the history. I took some videos and I want to apologize, they're not the best because of the wind and the circumstances, but you get a real good view of what Tulare Lake looks like in real time.
So Tulare Lake used to be the largest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi. It sits in a basin in the San Joaquin Valley, and all of the water from Kings Canyon in the Sierras south drains into the San Joaquin Valley, and in the natural order of things would end up in Tulare Lake. It was a massive lake, hundreds of square miles. It wasn't very deep because of the geology. The reason it was maybe 10, 20 feet deep. It was home to a thriving population of Indians, Native Americans, who were in the San Joaquin Valley when the white settlers began to move into the valley. Over time, Tulare Lake was drained, both for flood control reasons and to grow cotton and alfalfa and other crops in the San Joaquin Valley. And so it has largely been gone, just simply disappeared for the better part of 125 years. Every couple of decades, the runoff in the Sierras is so overwhelming. It flows over the flood control basins and refills the lake, which is now a vast area of farms and roads and processing plants that are at the bottom of what used to be a massive lake. So it's referred to as flooding, but what it really is the lake filling back up.
Right. And the reason that Mary and Jim were such fabulous hosts is because their company that they worked for all those years was the owner of the lake bed and did farm there for a very long time.
And still do.
It's
one of the largest landowners in California.
And now they're dealing with the flood. So we're going to show you everything.
This is the southeast portion of Tulare Lake. This is by the Tulare River where it blew out and had the initial flooding, but now we're seeing the flooding in here is actually coming from Cross Creek and the Kings River. And this is really the eastern section of the lake.
Huh. You can see it's flooded the entire farmland over here. I think those might be pistachios.
They are. Good guess.
That up there is a chicken foster farm.
And then over here,
That is a trucking company shop that's now underwater.
uh-huh.
They've moved all their equipment out and relocated all the mobile devices they could, but that's going to be a couple years until that shop dries out.
So they will probably have lost some of their equipment.
Yep, and they'll have to do a lot of cleanup.
And again, this is not the high point.
Oh no, we are 10 feet from the high point. I mean, from the elevation of the lake.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. There's a lot of beautiful birds here. It's interesting.
There's a lot of
I see some
wildlife.
herons, lots of wildlife.
Well, there's actually a portion out on the southern part of the Tulare Lake called Pelican Island,
Right, yeah.
where it's a little high spot and used to be a huge nesting place for pelicans.
But there's a game refuge south of here that has a tremendous amount of wildlife in it.
Yeah, 2 of them.
So it's a happy place for the birds. And now they have even more place to play in. Yeah.
Okay, this is the main road that comes out of the town of Corcoran called Whitley Avenue. And there's a corner up here where it dead ends into 10.5 Avenue. This is the furthest I've ever seen the water in my lifetime here. If you'll pan a little bit to the left, you'll see a building out there. That's an old gin facility on the Boswell property. Jim actually used to work out up in that area. And it's possible this water will come up another 2 or 3 or 4 feet over time and continue filling.
Wow. And when do you expect that high water mark to occur?
Traditionally, with this amount of water, the lake high point has been around mid-June. So we're expecting sometime around the 1st of June maybe to have a better idea. Serious problem.
And some of your friends' homes have already been flooded, yes?
That's correct. And the homes you're looking at now is actually, that's a big gym structure that they've built a little levee around. We're hoping that'll be high enough to keep it dry even at the peak of the flood. And behind that group of trees are 2 homes of friends of ours that are in the same position where they've put a little levee around their home and hope that it doesn't reach that levee as it rises.
And there's a levee around the city of Corcoran.
Correct.
So that you're hoping your home doesn't flood.
That's correct.
But you're not certain about that.
And they're in the process of raising that levee 3.5 feet to help ensure that that doesn't happen.
The flood, the road, the river, and in the background, the levee that is
Corcoran levee.
the Corcoran levee. that's
Famous
supposed to
Corcoran levee.
hold the water away from the town. We're at the very edge of the lake, and as we look into the distance, Robert,
So you can see there are 2 mountain ranges in the distance. One is a relatively low set of foothills, and then there are higher mountains behind. This lake goes to the lower foothills, which are 12 miles away
12 miles.
from this point.
The very edge of the lake, which will continue to rise.
We're right here. If we're looking to the west, each one of these is a mile, so that's 12 miles across.
Wow, so the water is 12 miles across.
That's right. It's probably 6 miles this way right now.
And when was the last time that Tulare Lake was this flooded?
1983.
So this is a historic event.